Well, hello and back to my channel. If you noticed my video a couple of days ago, which was actually a follow-up to a video from a month ago, which I don't blame you for, but does give a little bit more context for kind of what I was talking about, I got a couple of concerning comments saying that the idea that I suggested, again, in the video from 2 days ago, go watch it to reference it, was dangerous. And if you thought that that idea that I shared was dangerous, it really reveals a concerning lack of awareness of typical road safety, but honestly, an even more perplexing lack of understanding about physics. So I think we can just go over some really basic stuff today, but also some things that might not be so obvious to say. So something can be both easy to prove / disprove, but also not trivial, as I once heard on a podcast. So probably doesn't mean anything, but today we are doing Remedial Drivers Ed, and I'm also going to talk specifically about the Tuline Mountain roads to which I was referring, but we're also going to get into very not math heavy physics that's really going to shed some light on a very important misunderstanding I think people have about how speeds work on the roads and how safe it truly is or not to go into the opposing lane depending on the circumstance. All right, so this is Remedial Drivers Ed, the truth about tailgating. So I want to start by sharing the 3 rules that maybe I should have made clearer. I did give a disclaimer at the end of my video, to be fair, but it's also kind of understandable that maybe the way I described it, you were kind of picturing, some sort of like James Bond scene. That absolutely is not what I was describing, and I want to make very clear, one, that anytime you are turning or changing lanes, you should signal that. 2, don't do any maneuvers that you don't feel comfortable doing. Flat out. And 3, and this is the one that is most important to why I actually feel concerned about making this video, and it's not just like an ego bruise, which you can call it, I don't give a fuck, but it's also legitimate public information. Leave a following distance. Leave a cushion between what you're doing and any change that you make to what you're doing. This is my central criticism of the tailgating that I so desperately have sought to try to find a solution for. All right, so let's get into that just a little bit. The dangers of tailgating. Okay, guys? So 50 miles per hour is about 20 meters per second. It's more like 22, but this really isn't about pedantics. It's about getting the rough picture. So you have to actually picture that 20 meters is about 60 feet for us Americans. And so you have to picture that if you're so close to someone that you're only a few meters away, which feels even closer, when you're looking down the hood and stuff, that you have a fraction of a second of any change in the person's speed ahead of you to be able to respond in time to not hit them. Okay? Now, this results in crashes. I have a link, Mechanic Insider, while tailgating is even more dangerous than you think. It quotes the National Highway Safety Administration, which reports that rear-end collisions account for over 30% of all traffic accidents, and tailgating is a leading cause. It also lists a ton of things. I don't even give the full list here. Reduced reaction time, more severe accidents, increased stress, potential for chain reactions, road rage, risk of overreaction, and more. All right? Tailgating is super, super common. That doesn't mean that it's safe. In fact, it very much is not. And yet people continue to do it because they're not necessarily thinking in the terms that need to be thought of on the road. Our minds are not made for the road is the charitable explanation, but some people be stupid is another. Human reaction time. So on Human Benchmark, it claims that the average human reaction time is 273 milliseconds. I might just suck at reaction time. I don't know. Who knows if you need reaction time to be a musician or anything, but I did the little game and did 384 milliseconds. I've read elsewhere that true human reaction time can be anywhere from half a second to 2 seconds because we're not all in a perfectly lit room with a perfectly lit screen, rested and focused and only for some amount of time trying to get this particular reaction. No, it's for a sustained amount of time. We are often tired. It's low light conditions. You're not perfect. All right. This means that driving only a few meters from someone ahead going 40 or 50 miles an hour makes it technically impossible to react to severe enough changes, which is probably the reason why 30% of crashes are that way. Tailgaters will rationalize that I'm completely in control of my vehicle. I know that I've got better brakes than this pussy-ass car in front of me. As soon as I see them change, I'll change, and it's only the reaction time that's going to matter. But let me tell you, dude, at that point, when you're already so close to a couple hundred milliseconds being the difference, and that's also a couple hundred milliseconds is at best human reaction time, you're talking about a very razor thin gap that you're going to succeed at time and time again, instant after instant that you're on the road, all because of somebody going a few miles an hour under the speed limit in front of you. Do you hear how insane that is? All right, so a few more clarifications that I just wanted to make, okay? The technique that I described in the video, and again, I gave a disclaimer at the end. God, this is coming across like the video where I reacted to all the angry Christians. Guy, just take my videos more seriously in the beginning, and then I don't have to make the follow-ups, but here we go. All right, this is for 2-lane highways in the mountains where there's seldom as much traffic, or during times of day where there's less traffic, and also is best done at night. Also because of part 2, but also because of something that we're going to get to a little bit up ahead. If you don't ever find yourself driving in those situations, and I'm looking at you, commenter, who said specifically that they weren't American, then this technique absolutely never applies to you, all right? So feel free to learn something interesting about the world that you didn't previously know. All right, what I'm showing right here, is a pretty decent epitome of the type of road that I'm talking about. Notably here, you can't pass. This is a double line. But you'll also see that the only decent to drive on parts of the road are the 2 lanes that are paved. It's not like you can pull over anywhere and there's concrete. Pull-offs are few and far between. They're not very long, and they're much harder on your vehicle to drive over, especially at any significant speed. So for all of those reasons, for you to successfully slow down and pull over for someone tailgating you, you have to first, and I think I'm getting to the slide that's ahead. First, you have to actually trust that they're going to follow you as you slow down. But 2, you have to slow down a lot, because you don't want to damage your vehicle. And also you have to slow down in preparation, because at night you're not going to see ahead to where those pull-offs are. So it becomes a very stressful game. This is what the article was saying. It's a stressful situation. Somebody is behind you. It's a very scary situation. You want to gain back some control, okay? You don't want to have to slow down in front of the person who's only like 2 feet behind you, only to get over onto the road that can easily bust a tire where you don't have cell service, also that you can get back on the road, reaccelerate, get worse gas mileage, get to where you're going slower. There has to be a better way. And if you're looking at me telling me that trying to deal with that situation is unsafe, you have failed to recognize how unsafe that this initial situation is to begin with. Just because it's common does not mean it's okay, and that's true for a lot of things. Let's get into some details of how roads actually work, all right? Roads do not work exactly the way that the human mind is conditioned. They are much bigger and longer than you think. They are intentionally engineered in a way so as to take advantage of human eye perspective and to make us think that things are much slower than they are. So this is why when you actually look at the lettering on a sidewalk, it's very stretched out. You're seeing at an angle. You're seeing things happen very, very quickly. There's compression of your environment ahead of you. All right. Now, again, let's come back to 50 miles an hour is about 22 meters per second. So this means that you're going to cross an American football field in less than 5 seconds. An American football field, you can picture that being a pretty sizable amount of time. You can also picture that there's plenty of stretches of road that take significantly longer than 5 seconds to traverse. So this is starting to give you an idea. Sometimes you can see to the end of the road that's even 2 miles out. Often you can see to the end of the road that's a half mile out. And it is in these places that we get the passing possibility in the first place, because there's actually standards. Turns out they don't just dot the line sometimes and put them solid the other times and then go back after the fact to add a sign that says do not pass every single time it changes back. No, even if they weren't always done to perfect standards, these roads were actually created to be used safely. And so there's standards. And I have a link here. You're going to have the link too if you go to the description for a posted speed of 55 miles per hour, 55 being how fast the road is marked on which I first successfully implemented this technique. I tend to go 40 to 50 depending on how curvy it is. So I'm giving you an idea. I'm going slightly slower, not enough that I can constantly stop for people who want to go a little faster, enough that we can find something that works. Okay, so for posted speed of 55 miles per hour, depending on a bunch of things, you need anywhere from 500 to 900 feet of visibility in front of you. Okay, so we were thinking in terms of meters per second, 900 feet, or hell, even 500 feet. We can just say roughly 200 meters in front of us, because this is going to make the math kind of straightforward to go out. So if you can see, and this is minimum too, if you can see a minimum of 200 meters ahead of you, which is why they have put the dots in there in the first place, and of course you confirm, you look with your eyeballs. Jesus, people. Some people acting like you're supposed out there driving without watching what you're doing. Anyway, think this. It'll take you 10 seconds to traverse that area. This becomes even less of a factor compared to what you might think. Oh, it's only half that, because you're already getting over to slow down. And because if you're having a little trouble, the person ahead of you is also seeing something obstructing their view, and at the very least has let off the gas pedal just while they're seeing what's happening. But you don't even have to rely on that. You don't even have to rely on that. Opposing traffic is not going to come out of nowhere. That's not how these roads work, especially at night, where absolutely nobody, regardless of any extenuating circumstance, is capable of driving without headlights. Not on these roads. There is not the light for that. Okay? So even, this is why I said at night, this is the other reason why at night's better, because even if you can't see the vehicle yet and there's a curve up ahead and you know you still got like several hundred feet in front of you, but you can see the first photons of their headlights beaming against the trees, you've got even more time to know that there's a car coming, take it a little slower, get back over. Again, this is not tons and tons and tons of traffic. You have to let a max of 20 cars that have built up, max, pass you. That takes 20 seconds max, probably. So I want you to look at this road, and we're going to do a little bit of a mental experiment, because as you can see, it's a dotted line. You can see well ahead of you. It's daytime. Now I want you to really picture, and if you haven't driven, maybe picture a train. I want you to really picture being on this road, mountains so far away that they're barely moving, as you speed by the rail next to you, sure, but only casually go by the pine trees. How long is it taking you to drive down this stretch of road? Realistically, at least 10 seconds. At least. If you were pulled over right now, if you were in the opposing lane of traffic, and even this car in the distance, which you can't even tell for sure that it's in our lane or the other one, but let's say it's coming towards us, you've got 10, 15 seconds. Let the other cars pass you. Oh, they're like, oh, what's going on up here? I'm just going to maybe take it easy. You get back over. Oh, I guess it's nothing. They continue, you continue. Okay? I want to remind you what the method that I shared actually is to begin with. Because remember before, if you pull over from someone tailgating you, you have to slow down first and trust that they're not going to hit you. And then slow down enough that you can get onto a shoulder, assuming that you saw in advance when one was going to be, and assuming that it's not so dangerous that it popped one of your tires in the dark in the middle of the night without cell service. Instead, what you can do is signal left, same as you do when you're going to pass somebody. You're still passing somebody, passing in the other direction. Take a couple seconds, make sure it's good, go over. All right. Now, get some establishing, you're over. Good. You're clear of the other cars. Firmly depress the brake. This does two things. First, it creates that relative velocity difference that I was mentioning that probably people's imaginations went wild with. People go forward. But more likely what's happened is at first when you get over, it is weird. And people are like, what is going on? So they kind of slow down. They don't want to pass you just yet. But when you firm down on the brake, it's clear. Homie, pass. Dog, pass. You wanted to go faster than me. I'm here. No one's coming. Get the hell down the road. That's the method. All right? Crazy. So in conclusion, for the love of God, don't tailgate people. There's absolutely better ways to deal with getting someplace quickly. Look, the limits of my car too are that it's a 2000 Dodge Ram van. The limiting factor on how fast it can go isn't even the engine because I keep everything running. It's just literally that it's 6,000 pounds because I'm often carrying a lot of stuff. And if I'm going into a turn, that's 6,000 pounds times however much I had to brake, times the distance to the ground because torque is force times radius. It's a lot of force on the actual structure of my car. You might tailgate me thinking, oh, you're going to bully me one direction or another. But really, you've just locked me in at pretty much the only safe speed that I can go. I cannot go fast. I'm already going about what is good. Now you've made it impossible for me to even slow down. Okay, that is not safe. All right. 2, for the love of God, I don't know what's going on with this channel. I started this channel because I wanted to make some talking videos on my main music channel because I talk in real life, probably have been talking longer than I've been making music, and people IRL have told me for like more than a decade, you should be a YouTuber, you have all these interesting ideas. So I was like, oh, okay, I'll try to do that. No, fuck it, I hate you, your face stinks, I don't want to, I mean, this obviously isn't everybody. Some people are popular YouTubers for crying out loud. I just wanted to make a different space for me to be able to share some of these thoughts. And from the fucking beginning, it's just rain hellfire coming into my comments telling me stupid this, stupid that, unsafe this, unsafe that. Fuck, I don't know if this is just the normal YouTuber experience. It hasn't been my experience with the music channel, and maybe I didn't recognize the blessing that was. So thank you if you've been nice over there. Fuck you if you've been mean over here. Like and subscribe. And see you in the next video, whatever I'm talking about.